How's it going, Reef Keepers? So I am going to go ahead and do just an unboxing and first look at the Jebao slash Jecod DMP-40 VorTech clone Wavemaker. I keep trying to figure out the best way to say that, but so this line, the DMP line from Jebao Jecod, is this Chinese manufacturer's attempt to basically rip off almost shot for shot the Ecotech VorTech. And from what I can tell from my initial reviews of a smaller model than this is the largest model that they have made in the lineup, uh, they did a fairly decent job of it. Even the app control is halfway decent. So it's very interesting to me. It seems like it's very interesting to a lot of you. And therefore, I chose to go ahead and order the rest of the lineup. So I had one. I ordered the other three. This is the first one to arrive. I plan to do like an examination of each one, a flow test of each one, keep testing the sound on them, compare them together, etc. So basically, I'm just getting started on this DMP coverage, and it will continue. But let's go ahead and take a look at this one, the DMP40, the largest iteration in the lineup. So when you open the box, you will find this to greet you. I had already taken it out. It's just a manual and a QC card on a piece of foam covering the components underneath. The components underneath will go from like most boring to least boring. We've got power cordage, fairly heavy duty. This being the largest model, it does come with a power brick. It doesn't have the little brick connected to the actual power plug point like the smaller iterations will. I will say, I mean, I don't know very much about this stuff. This is 24 volt setup here, and it feels, I mean, a little more plasticky than the Ecotech power bricks, which I think are Meanwell. I'm pretty sure they use Meanwell components, which are reputable and pretty solid, but it doesn't feel ridiculously cheap. I'm not sure on UL listing or anything like that for it, but it's fine, I guess. From what I can tell, just by feeling it, I have felt a lot worse power bricks that feel like I could just break them in my hand, and this one doesn't feel that way, so I'm going to count that as a plus. You've also got the standard issue universal Jebao slash Jecod control box. So this control box, what's cool about it, there's a couple of things actually. It comes with a bracket, which is nice. You get a bracket right out of the box. You don't have to order one from a third party or anything like that. Also, you can disconnect the dry side from the control box, which you cannot do on a VorTech. If any of you have ever owned a VorTech, you'll know the struggle of feeding the control box through all of your nest of cords to get it to where you want it to be while it's awkwardly connected to the dry side that you've got hanging on your tank. When you set this up, you won't have to do that because you actually can just feed a normal cord to this connection point and connect it, which is cool. I will say, I mean, this is, being a universal Jebao Jecod control box, it's more plasticky and more cheaply made than a VorTech control box, for sure. I don't even think the screen is backlit or anything like that. But using the app, and you guys will know I had a app review video for the Jebao Aqua app, I would not use the control box. The app is solid enough that I would just use the app. I would learn the app and use it because it is actually quite useful, and that Bluetooth is stable. It really is. So I was fairly impressed with that. I did not expect the stability out of the app that we apparently have received. So that's a good thing because the control box is a little bit lacking. Now, comes with the cord clamps and zip ties, just like a VorTech would, to keep those cords stable on your tank. I don't anticipate these working any better than the VorTech ones. Those always failed for me. I'm guessing these will fail too eventually. You'll probably just be in a constant cycle of every few months getting more clamps and 3M sticky tape and zip ties, and they still haven't figured out the cord thing. I always try to come up with some other method rather than relying on those things because they don't really work that well. So here is the wet side for this beast. And so I've never owned an MP40 QD. So I can't really speak to, even though this is the best comparison you can make is to the MP40 QD, I've never owned one. So what I can say is I have gone to a fellow Reef Keepers event and actually been able to hold and use like and kind of experiment with an MP40, which was cool. So it gives me a little bit of experience, but not a whole heck of a lot. This feels, this wet side feels a little more plasticky, I would say, like a little less robust than my memory of the MP40 wet side. And I'm sure that's probably the case. Now, if you watched, if you've seen any coverage on these at all on YouTube, you'll know that the Jebao's big like change that they have made is this suction cup cap, where the suction cups are like injected, molded into this cap. I guess I think I heard somebody say it was casted. So the suction cups seem fairly robust. I don't get the sense that they're gonna, fall out or imminently fall apart. Now, I will say, suction cups in salt water, there's a reason why freshwater aquariums can get away with suction cups and we can't. But these are some of the most robust suction cups I've ever felt. And the cap itself is quite strong. So I'm not really sure long term. I guess I'll report on that down the line, the long term viability of the cap. Um, we'll see how it works out. Something to note, when taking apart the cage for this, you notice that just like you would unscrew like a jar of preserves, you twist to the left and then you can remove it. So let's just remove it so that you guys can see the interior here. So when you twist to the left and remove it, the way that the propeller spins is in keeping with that left turn. So the VorTech actually has reversed the opening mechanism so that you have to twist to the right and remove it, which I think is actually pretty smart because that means that over time the directionality of the pump won't work this free. Now, what's the real risk of that happening? I don't know. This felt pretty firmly as though it was, on there. So we'll see again over time. But just little touches like that. I mean, again, this is $175 versus $480. So I expect the little touches to be there with the VorTech that this is probably not going to have. So let me set these components down for a second, and I'll give you a close look. The propeller, it looks like exactly like it would on a VorTech. I mean, from my memory, it's like indistinguishable. There's a little bit of play in here. Looks roughly to be the same dimension. I will say, it comes apart differently. So if you've seen an MP40 or you have MP40s, you'll know that there are like two little clamp things that you pull up, and then kind of this front plate that like comes off, exposing the magnet below. I don't think that I'm going to be able to get this undone without like pausing this and taking a tool to it, and I'm not going to go that deep into it, but there are like these little tabs and these little holes that go around the outside of this, and I think you'd have to take a screwdriver and kind of punch those little tabs in and then remove it. I mean, I can feel where there's like the slightest bit of play, so I do know this thing comes apart. I can see the tabs, but it's a little less of a user-friendly access to the magnet, I guess. So something to keep in mind. Let me take a look here. So we've also got this center rod around which the propeller mechanism is going to turn. And I'm trying to figure out, I can't tell if this is plastic or ceramic. It feels kind of plasticky. So Ecotech uses ceramic, I think. And I would say that ceramic's probably the better call. Again, you're getting kind of what you pay for on some of the finer details, so to speak. Yeah, I think this is plastic, guys. So this seems like it's plastic. I am reasonably sure that will wear quicker than ceramic. But again, maybe it's some kind of, more premium plastic that they utilized on this. I am not an expert. I'm essentially giving my totally unknowledgeable thoughts, um, and letting you guys fill in the gaps. So let's put this back together. It takes a decent little bit of force to put it together. All right, put the cap back on. Cap's very easy to get back on there. Okay, now let's take a look at the big component here. So here it is. Here's the back side of it. Actually, pretty nice looking. I like that. There's a little bit of like almost sparkle behind the Jecod name on there if you look really close. So obviously they're pretty proud of what they've done here. The suction cup cap, by the way, on the dry sides of these is adhered to it. So this suction cup cap on the wet side is going to come off so that you can take the wet side apart and service it or whatnot. The dry side cap is adhered to it, I suspect, to give it some more, so that it can't just like fall out of the cap and onto the floor if the magnetism kind of gives out for any reason, which I appreciate. I like that it's firmly in place on there. I do think, and I don't know for sure, seems like there's a little more space between the cord and the front of the dry side unit. So I like that because I think passing a magnet when you're cleaning your glass behind it is going to be a little bit easier. But guys, this thing has some serious heft to it. It feels heft-wise very, very similar to my memory of holding that MP40 the one time. There's also a significant length of pretty darn heavy-duty cordage here. So, I don't know, maybe longer than 6 feet, just eyeballing it. I'll probably put in the comments, I'll probably measure that and then put in the comments how much cordage you're going to get just with this length of cordage from the dry side that will connect into the control box. So the last thing I'm going to do with this is I am going to kind of test out the magnetism for us so that you guys can see how strong the magnet is on this thing. I tested it myself, and I will say I found it to be pretty strong. So what I'm going to do is hold this lightly and slowly get closer to the dry side and allow this wet side to kind of suck out of my hand and adhere to the dry side. I'm going to try to get it so that the suction cups are not lined up, because the suction cups will stick together and make it hard to pull apart. So let's see here. Okay. Jeez. All right. See that with the suction cups, like I mentioned? All right, let me slowly put that together. Wow, that's quite forceful. In line with my memory of connecting the two halves of the MP40 the one opportunity I had to do that. So let me try to pull this thing apart. I'm going to try to... Okay. Let me get all suction cups to not line up. It's hard to tell because the suction cups absolutely want to suck together. It is difficult. I think I actually got it this time. Let's see. Yeah, I got it that time. The suction cups did not line up, so they were not stuck to each other. I don't have tools to measure magnetism. I would say this. Just judging on my experience doing the same thing with the MP40 a couple of years ago, I would say that, yeah, this is in line with magnetic strength, in magnetic strength terms, to the MP40. So, pretty impressive. It feels good. This does, again, the cage feels a little weaker, a little more plasticky, and I'm sure that is the case. But again, so to summarize, there are a few quirks or things that were done or glossed over that I would say were done because this thing costs so much less. But it costs so much less. $175 versus $480. I mean, you're going to be able to buy this thing at least a couple of times before you even get into the ballpark of the OG VorTech. In light of that, if one of these lasted a couple of years, I mean, depending on who you are and how you see this kind of thing, the warranty's 1 year on a VorTech. Maybe they'll help you after a year, maybe they won't. But, I mean, with a 1 year warranty, I don't know. For me personally, I don't have the money to drop on Vortex. I like the wet side, dry side design. So something like this really appeals to me where if I can get 2 or 3 good years out of one of these units, I can handle dropping $175 again after 2, 3 years. I can't handle dropping $480 a year after I dropped $480 if Ecotech chose to not support a warranty. That's crazy town. And I can barely handle dropping $480 once, not on one singular item. I mean, I've done it in this hobby, but man, does it hurt. So, pretty compelling. Pretty compelling for sure. And I'm looking forward to flow testing this thing. And I'll be back at you guys with a flow test soon enough. So, in the meantime, keep on reefing on, folks. And thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.